Hello everyone, thank you for joining us. We're so glad to have you. We can't wait to get started on a great workshop, but first let's get a little more acquainted. I'm John Booth, I'm a senior here at Sanford University, Comm Studies major of course, and these are my two friends.
Well, I'm Brendan Baranek, I'm also a Comm Studies major here and a senior.
And I'm Will Davis, I'm also a graduating senior and a communication studies major.
We can't wait to get started with the workshop. It's going to be a great one. I know the title can be a little bit confusing, what's the deal with women, but I assure you this workshop's actually all about the boys and what we can do to make communication with the women in our lives easier. But before that, we want to give you some time to get acquainted with each other and introduce yourselves. So please go around the room and introduce yourself to someone that you don't know, and we'll come back to this in about 3 or 5 minutes. Thank you.
All right, now that we're all acquainted, as John just said a little bit ago, our goals in this relationship are to teach you problems that typically occur in communications due to gender. Men and women are alike, but we have key differences that can be problematic within communication. Can you name some of those key differences?
Yeah, we're just going to take a little bit of time to open up the floor, give you a chance to respond. Think of anything that you've noticed in your own life that shows gender differences in communication, how that's problematic, or think of examples that you've seen maybe in your friend's life or from watching your parents. We'll give you about 3 to 5 minutes to think of something and then come up with a response. Great, glad to get you to answer that question. Now that we've been able to think through some things, I'm going to let Brendan explain to you what the workshop's going to be about.
So we want to give you some good communication strategies to use within your relationship. First, we're going to talk about the he said, she said, which is how men and women use verbal communications for different reasons. Next, we're going to talk about types of talk, which is face-to-face communication and computer-mediated communication. Then we're going to move on to gender differences dealing with stress. Then we're going to talk about intimacy, which leads us into our break in which you can use the restroom and maybe snack on some of the snacks that we brought for you guys today. And we're going to finish up with some solutions for everything that we've talked about.
That's great. That'll lead us to our first activity of the day. We're going to have you pair up into groups and come into the room 2 by 2, and we're going to have you role play as maybe some difficult women in your life. So it should be fun. We're going to have a great time. Great. Now that we've had a little bit of fun, we're going to have you watch a short video. Should be funny and interesting, and then be prepared to answer some questions at the end. It'll take about 5 to 10 minutes to do that.
All right, can anyone tell me what the issue was in this video? No. Actually, this video perfectly represents one of the few differences between men and women from a communication standpoint. This difference, report versus rapport communication, or as we like to, All right, can anyone tell me what the issue was in this video? No. Actually, this video perfectly shows one of the few differences between men and women from a communication standpoint. This difference is report versus rapport communication, or as we like to call it, he said, she said.
That's right. He said, she said, or report versus rapport communication is a key gender difference. But let me give you a framework to break that down so that we can better understand it once it's defined. That framework is sociobiology. Sociobiology is defined as the scientific study of biological aspects of social behavior in humans and animals. Sociobiology is one of those key things that helps us understand what we're talking about in the workshop and it influences our actions. And once you understand sociobiology, it helps you better influence and change your own actions.
That's right, John. But what factors motivate this behavior? For that, we look back again at sociobiology. In the past, women were known as caretakers and men were known as the hunters and protectors. We still have these primal instincts today. Women need to secure resources, and that drives their rapport communication. Establishing liking makes gathering resources easier. Men communicate quickly without emotion in order to hunt easier and protect easier. Women communicate for connection, whereas men communicate to accomplish tasks.
So an example of this in modern context would go something like this. 2 people are on a date, let's call them Jason and Amber. Jason and Amber are sitting down talking, Amber's asking him a myriad of questions such as, what's your favorite dog? What's your favorite color? Where's your favorite childhood vacation spot? Things like that to get to know each other a little better. Well, Jason's answering all these questions to the best of his ability, and it's going well. They're having a good time. He thinks the date went super well. To his surprise, Amber never calls him back. What happened? Well, while Amber was engaging in rapport communication, trying to further the relationship, get to know him a little better, Jason's engaging in report communication, simply answering the questions for what they are. Questions, for nothing more than their context. And to further on to this pile, Jason is not asking any reciprocating questions either. He's not trying to get to know Amber, and this makes Amber feel like he's just not interested in the relationship or her in general. So naturally, she's not going to give him a call back.
That's right. This is one of the issues with, sitting down and trying to have a conversation with someone is conversational maintenance, right? Women are oftentimes responsible for the conversational maintenance, and we men don't do enough to, keep things going, to show interest. Yeah, we're answering questions, and that's great. It makes us feel good. It makes them feel like we're interested in them or that they're interested in us. But not asking anything back just displays to them, oh, maybe he doesn't really care, right?
Absolutely, and it definitely makes the woman feel like they're just there to answer questions and hang out and not really trying to further anything. So why would they waste their time with us if we're just trying to, answer their questions and just spend a little time and get something to eat? And this is a great example of face-to-face or FTF. But other problems arise when we enter CMC or computer-mediated communication.
Right. Online is a whole other beast. There are a ton of issues that can occur online. Let me just give you a short example of that. So we've got two more people, right? Let's say Jim and Pam. Funny office reference, we all get it. I thought that would be a good Stanford thing for everyone to hear. But we've got Jim and Pam, right? Jim is headed to the grocery store and he texts his wife, Pam. He says, at grocery store, need anything? To which she replies, are you mad at me? And of course, that's funny because, Jim's not mad at all. He's just asking if she needs anything. We understand that perfectly. But to Pam, the shortness of the text is completely out of left field. She doesn't understand why he's not engaging her on a level that's meaningful. Now, if the roles were reversed, Pam would text Jim and say, hey, sweetie, I'm headed to the store. I'm going to pick up some special food for our anniversary. Is there anything that you want? Is there anything missing from the list? How are the kids? So on and so forth, right? Pam is not just texting him to find out if he needs anything from the store. She's texting him to engage with him, to be, in his space, to understand how his day was, to catch up with him about his day and the kids, and just to talk in general. She's talking to him because she wants to. And that's the key difference between men and women is a lot of times when it gets to technology, women use the phone because they want to. They want to communicate. They want to be involved with you. Men use the phone because they need to. They say, oh, well, I need something from the store. I need to know what we need for dinner. I have to check up on the kids for such or such reason. Want versus need. And that's one of the big issues when it comes to technology. So we have a little exercise for you. We're going to do a text message exercise. You are going to be allowed 140 characters to tell someone something of crisis. Let's say you just got in a big wreck and your leg is broken and you need to tell your mom or your dad that this is going on. You've got 140 characters, go.
Now that you've all had time to complete that exercise, how was it? Was it easy? Was it hard? It was hard, right? That's because it was designed to demonstrate how technology can cause communication to lose meaning and emotion. It is simply too difficult to convey not only the necessary amount of context via text, but the emotion behind it as well, especially in times of crisis. While tech is great for communication over distance, it lacks human elements such as voice fluctuation, facial expression, warmth, and eye contact. These elements serve as avenues to convey meaning in addition to the content of the message. However, text messages and other forms of CMC can really only deliver the content. Another issue with CMC is that while using it, men and women have different rules of engagement. Simply put, women use technology because they want to. Men use it because they have to. Men will text when they have something to say. This becomes an issue because men can receive a text and not reply because they simply had nothing to say. Or they might not initiate conversation all day, only for the same reason. However, in the woman's mind, this is a violation of the relational rules. Women expect a reply, whether it's something as simple as, hey, can't talk right now, talk to you later, or hey, I'm really busy today, I'm not gonna be on my phone a whole lot, I'll text you tomorrow, have a wonderful day. However, it's different for men. We don't expect a response, and it does not usually bother us when we don't get one, but this gets us in trouble with our women.
That's right, Will. This can get us in trouble with our women. And doing this knowingly or unknowingly causes stress within your relationships. Now, men and women handle stress differently. Unfortunately, the ways that men and women handle stress can sometimes counteract one another and cause extremely negative effects upon the relationship. The two most common ways that men and women handle stress is criticism and stonewalling. Women tend to prefer criticism, and men tend to prefer stonewalling. Now, can anyone here tell me what those two words mean?
Okay, no responses? Well, let's go over it. What are these two words? Criticism is, in effect, dismantling someone's character, attacking them at the core of who they are with your words. Stonewalling is withdrawing or being dismissive, making yourself busy, completely stepping away from the conflict situation. These two things are fire and fuel. Since women typically initiate conversation and carry conversation most of the time, they usually begin in these kind of destructive behaviors. Not to offend anyone, but this is simply the case because men just don't talk that much. So the woman would lead in with a criticism. She may be upset about one of the scenarios we gave earlier, probably you not responding because you're a terrible boyfriend. That's just how it goes. But she begins with the criticism, and that causes you to withdraw or to stonewall. And this just feeds itself over and over. The very behaviors that she was criticizing you for are your first response. This is sociobiological in nature. Stonewalling is, in effect, a way to dismiss emotion so that we can focus on the task or goal at hand. It comes as a part of our fight or flight response, but we can't fight our girlfriends, so in a sense we flee. We step away, we get busy, we let life get in the way, and that is what it is, and it makes them upset. And they criticize us, and so we continue to step away further and further until the relationship is essentially self-destructive. Women's response in criticism is also sociobiological in nature. Women need to deflect stress and come down from a stressful state of mind much quicker than men because, from a biological standpoint, if a woman is stressed, she cannot breastfeed her children. So, her body and her mind tell her, get rid of the stress as quick as possible, deflect the stress by bouncing it onto someone else, and if you can do that, we can come down from this quicker and do what we need to do effectively. Now, us men, we stay in this stressful state of mind a lot longer, and it's a lot more difficult. That's what stonewalling is. It is, in essence, cutting off the relational oxygen that is communication. This leads us to our second gender difference, and it's how men and women create intimacy. So women are said to create intimacy face to face. In other words, they want to talk to you. They want to sit down and engage with you about your day, about your life, positive or negative disclosures, either way. But that's how women create intimacy. It is with being with one another and communicating. Men are said to create intimacy side by side. We prefer activity. We would rather get to know each other and have openness and, those kind of things, affection, intimacy through activity. We would like to go somewhere, go to an amusement park, do something, and that's where we would like to talk about our day or how we're feeling or how mad our mom made us last week when we came home for Thanksgiving break, so on and so forth. Those are the avenues that we prefer. However, each one of these avenues is great, but it can cause problems in the relationship when they're done exclusively one or the other. So if you only seek to do activities with your girlfriend and never sit down and have a conversation with her, you're not building intimacy on her terms, only yours. And therefore, one-sided intimacy in the relationship causes relational breakdown. But if she has only ever wanted to talk to you and never wants to go out and do anything and be with you side by side, in the same way, she's only fulfilling her relational needs and not yours. And that causes relational dissolution as well. So in considering all these things and taking them into account, what do? We should take these experiences and bond with one another. We should sit down and think that, side-by-side communication is good, but we also have to allow time for face-to-face communication as well. Because if we're not sitting and talking, then the activity is kind of pointless. And if we're not enjoying experiences together, then the talking is kind of pointless. So we have to make sure that we're giving assurances, we're being open with one another, we're communicating well and experiencing our time together in a fun and healthy manner. All right, well, this brings us to our break. We're going to take a nice 20 minutes. Y'all can feel free to use the restroom, get something to eat, socialize, and discuss about things we just learned. And when we come back, we're going to give you more solutions to all the issues that we just outlined. Thanks.
Okay, everyone, welcome back. If we could all find a seat, we will begin to talk about the upside of all this, the strategies that can be used to strengthen and maintain our relationships. This, just like the first section, has an overarching concept that helps to frame the rest. That concept is meta-communication, or talking about how we talk to one another. Meta-communication is extremely important for a relationship because it provides a map of how our partners think and feel about the world, our relationship, how we communicate with them, and us.
That's right, Will. Metacommunication is extremely important, and it is a wonderful insight into how our partners think and feel, especially when it comes to our relationship and how they think and feel about us. Now, the two things that are antithesis to this are what we talked about earlier, criticism and stonewalling, but metacommunication leads to solving those, right? So, one antidote to criticism is what is called a soft startup and the use of I statements, right? If Will were to say something that hurts me, right? We're talking about our day and he says, you know what? You are so selfish, John. We always talk about what you want to talk about and you never talk about me. That is a criticism. It's not just a general complaint. It's an attack at who I am, calling me that I'm selfish, telling me that I never talk to him or care about his day. But one way that we could subvert this is I say, wow, Will, that really hurts. You're really attacking my character. What's wrong? And he could use a soft startup and I statements and say something like, well, John, I'm just feeling a little bit left out. I really need to vent. I had a hard day. Can we just talk about my day for a little bit? And this soft startup leads into a nice, gentle, easy conversation. It's not something that's harsh. It's not something that's attacking anybody's character. And we just get to have a conversation rather than a conflict. Now, stonewalling is, like we said earlier, cutting off the communication, cutting off the oxygen of the relationship. You're stepping away from that person and you're not really dealing with what's going on, and you're having them feel left out, having them feel ignored or not cared for. The antidote to this is simply cooling down, taking 20 minutes to step away, to calm down, to do something that you enjoy, maybe play video games or read a little bit, something like that. Any less than this, and the emotional flooding that was caused by the conflict is still going to be there. You're not going to be able to communicate effectively, you're not going to be able to meta-communicate especially, and you're not going to be able to have those conversations that can heal the relationship. Too much more than 20 minutes, say an hour or 2 hours, then feelings of rebuttal. Oh, I could have said this here, I could have won the argument by doing this, start to creep in. Also, the temptation to just drop it all together and not even come back to it arises. And if conflict isn't handled appropriately, then that can really lead to relational dissolution. So, metacommunicating is extremely important. It's one thing that we have to do. We have to keep that in mind. The partner has to know how we feel, and we have to know how our partner feels. So continuing on, with the examples of criticism and stonewalling, those two things are incredibly pervasive in most relationships nowadays. People don't really know how to handle stress, so they deflect through criticism, and people don't really know how to take criticism, so they deflect through stonewalling by stepping away. And it's just not effective for managing relationships. We've already talked about the strategies to fixing each one of those. So let's do a quick exercise where we have you come up and act these out. We're gonna have one person criticize and we're gonna have one person stonewall. You can kind of treat it like a roast battle. It'll be a little bit fun, and then we'll have you switch roles. And then we'll have you employ the soft startup and I statements, as well as coming in from your 20-minute break. You won't actually take 20 minutes, but coming in from that stonewalling break when you're no longer emotionally flooded and communicating effectively. So if we can have you pair up into groups and come to the front of the room, we'll get that exercise started right away.
Lastly, we're going to talk about how we create intimacy within partners. Now, we must find a way to meld face-to-face communication with side-by-side communication, because as we've talked about earlier, women prefer face-to-face and men prefer side-by-side. This leads back to metacommunication. Now, that's talking with your partner about talking itself, and talking about when is it a good time to just sit down and talk face-to-face, and when is it a good time to have an activity that creates that same type of emotion. Now, you also need to create activities that promote openness and affection. And also, there can be activities that don't need to do any of this. They can just be for you two to both kind of connect and further your relationship.
Enjoy together.
That's right. Communication is key, so much so that even more paramount is communicating about how we communicate. And a lack of communication is deadly. A willingness to adapt pairs with a healthy self-respect that voices our own needs is key. If we remember those three things, we can have happy, healthy relationships as well. One last key to creating those relationships is Sanford's favorite word, intentional. As much as a cliche as it is here, we have to be intentional with our time. So take a few moments to plan some time to communicate with a partner or friend this week, or the next, or the next. Feel free to use the calendar we left for you in the workbook. We'll give you about 5 minutes to do this.
All right, if everyone's done with that, this concludes the lecture and activity portion of our workshop. We're going to set aside the last 30 minutes for any questions and answers that you might have. And we're also going to have you fill out the evaluations for the course, just telling us what you learned, what you like, what didn't like, what was effective, what was ineffective. And we really appreciate your time, appreciate you for coming. If anyone has any last minute things they would like to address, please let us know. But otherwise, once those evaluations are handed in and I've collected your paper, you are free to go. Again, thank you for your time and thank you so much for coming.
Yes, again, I'd like to add on to that. Thank you very much for paying attention to us and giving us your respect this entire time during our workshop. And I had a great time with you guys.
Absolutely, and what they said, I hope we've taught you something that's never going to leave your head today.
Great. Have a wonderful evening.